This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. The holidays are over, the decorations are down, and suddenly everything feels a little empty. It's normal to feel the winter blues after the holiday excitement. January, February, and March are by far my least favorite months of the year. It's cold and dark, and I have to get some extra vitamin D on board. I also need to keep my regular scheduled appointments with my therapist. So if you're feeling that post-holiday funk, I definitely suggest you checking out BetterHelp because maybe it's time to talk. You might also be one of those people like me who makes New Year's resolutions and you get super motivated. So maybe you need someone behind you to hold you accountable and come up with a plan to meet your goals. BetterHelp is super convenient, totally online. You have a therapist right at your fingertips whenever you need them. So head over to betterhelp.com/wifeofcrime1 to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/wifeofcrime1 for 10% off your first month.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Do you have a point of sale system you can trust, or is it a real POS? You need Shopify for retail. From accepting payments to managing inventory, Shopify POS has everything you need to sell in person. Go to shopify.com/system, all lowercase, to take your retail business to the next level today. That's shopify.com/system.
This podcast is an unscripted, unedited conversation about true crime. We take the cases very seriously, but I don't take myself seriously at all, and neither should you. Welcome to Wife of Crime.
So, Russ, you and I have talked about a lot of serial killers over the last 4 years. But out of all the serial killers we've covered, I don't think anybody is like this guy. The man I'm telling you about today was so ruthless that not only did he have an entire state change multiple laws because of him, but he ended up on death row twice. This is the case of Kenneth McDuff. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Wife of Crime, a true crime podcast where I tell my husband, Russ, true crime stories, and he reacts to them.
What's up, folks? It's your boy Russ, a.k.a. Risky with the Whiskey,
Oh,
a.k.a. the weird guy that just blurts shit out, as one person once called me.
someone called you that in a review?
Yeah.
The weird guy who just blurts shit out?
But I do.
It's true, yeah. I mean, it's a good description.
I don't know how weird I am, but maybe not weirder than the person that took their time to write that.
You're weird, bro. You're weird. You don't think you're weird?
I think I'm the best.
I wonder if our listeners think you're weird or if they think you're really cool.
No, I think that they probably think like me and they think you're weird.
I am weird, and I'll admit it.
Like, look at her trying to be nice to everyone.
I am weird, but it's okay.
All right, so this week, you went to a show with your grandmother and mother.
Celtic women.
Yes. And you had a little experience there where Jess got a little bit of revenge. I want to see if you could tell this story to everyone. And I didn't plan on... She didn't know I was going to say this when we started today.
Well...
Come on. She's uncomfortable.
So, all right. We were at Celtic Women, which, you know, we did it for my grandmother. It was a really good show.
Get to what happened.
And there was a guy. Okay, so it was St. Patrick's Day. There were a lot of drunk people in the crowd, even though this is Celtic Women, which is like not a drunk crowd type of vibe. There was a guy in front of us who turned around and told us, but really he was talking to my mother or grandmother. I don't know, but I think it was my mother because she was talking right before then. Turned around and told her to shut the F up. And he like yelled it, and I got really mad.
That's crazy.
Luckily, my mom didn't hear it because people were like, you know, it was a little loud from the show at the time, and all she was doing was whispering So it was crazy. So I got really annoyed. So the show goes on. The whole time he's drunk and clapping and acting a fool, but we're like, whatever, we're just ignoring him. He was clearly one of the most annoying people that ever lived. So the show ends and he leaves and his sunglasses fall on the ground. So then we're all like leaving the theater and I see his sunglasses and I kind of kicked them out of the way at first. And then my mom and my grandmother walked ahead of me. And then I stepped on them.
Let's go, Jess. Let's go. I love it.
I didn't tell my mom or grandmother that I did that. So
when your
my mom's going to
listen
to this episode and find out that I stepped on this man's sunglasses.
It's Jess, a.k.a. fuck yo sunglasses. Love it.
That's about as mean as I can get.
Yeah.
But it's because he yelled at my mother.
No, he deserved it. And like, he deserved a bit of an ass whooping, but as a woman, you know, you don't want to get aggressive with a drunk man because if you say something and he gets aggressive and hits you, you know, it's just a lose-lose situation.
100%. And listen, if she was being loud and obnoxious and deserved to be told to shut up, then I would get it. But she was literally whispering something in my ear. Like I could barely hear her and she was sitting right next to me. There was no reason for him to turn around and tell her to shut up.
Well, I'm glad you stepped on his glasses.
Oh, I didn't know you were going to bring that up.
Yeah, that was pretty good. And something else that happened this week that I learned.
What?
Is that Clorox wipes, if your dog eats them,
oh my God,
won't kill your dog.
They won't kill your dog.
Because I thought they would kill your dog. Biggie is a nut. He will eat anything on the floor. He ate like 10 Clorox wipes and threw them up. And then, you know, we looked it up and Jess did some research and, you know, he's all right, but you don't have to take your dog to the vet to eat Clorox wipes.
No, I thought that it would literally be toxic and he was going to die. And turns out it's not a high enough amount of Clorox to kill them. It just causes like stomach upset. So they said just like give him some milk and bread and he'll be all right. And I did. And he was totally fine. And like within like 30 minutes after throwing up all the Clorox wipes, it was literally like 10 of them, by the way. And within like 30 minutes, he was wagging his little tail and happy and everything.
He don't care. Like at this age, he's starting to go a little blind. So if you just like walk with your hands on your side, he'll try to nip at your fingers, see if it's a sausage.
Yeah, he'll think it's a treat. Yeah, that was crazy. I literally thought that would be the end of Biggie, but
Biggie's invincible.
He lives another day.
You guys know every week I do review of the week. So for this week's review of the week, I dug back in the crates. Mm-hmm. For you young folks, when they say digging in the crates, there used to be vinyls and DJs would go dig in the crates and pull out the vinyls to play. If you don't know what vinyl is, you're a lost cause. So this week's review of the week is from a year ago.
Wow.
It's called It's Like a Groundhog, 5 stars. Russ, on how to catch a Tylenol poisoner. It's like a groundhog. They're going to come up looking for the sun. If he sees his shadow, he's guilty. Fades almost to a whisper. I swear, there's zero chance I'd be able to keep telling a story without cracking up once my co-host has started explaining groundhog-related crime-solving methods.
Yeah.
So I don't even remember that.
I don't either.
And how the hell are you going to catch someone when they see their shadow? I don't know. What am I talking about half the time?
I don't know what you're talking about half the time. I truly don't.
Me neither. And when we're not on the microphone, you tell me shut up.
I still tell you shut up on the microphone.
And one lady in the review said, you shouldn't tell me shut up.
Yes. One person out of the thousands of listeners has told me to not tell you to shut up. That was a good one. I feel like there are a lot of people lately who started following us who are binging currently.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of that where they're listening to all the episodes.
How crazy is that, binging us?
It's not crazy. Everybody binges. I watched the show Warrior on Netflix. I binged the whole thing because I couldn't get up to turn it off and the remote was far away.
Oh, God.
And I didn't want to...
Oh, that's horrible.
Nah, I'm full of shit. I can get up and get around just fine, guys.
So, one thing that's a big deal that's happening this month that Russ has agreed to, and it was actually his idea.
I have good ideas.
Is we are going to watch Homicide New York, which is a new Netflix series. It's 5 episodes, and we all know how Russ feels about multi-episode docuseries.
Yeah.
But we have decided to watch one per week for the next 5 weeks, and True Crime and Chill It.
Yeah, so we'll put out an episode on Patreon for one a week for the next 5 weeks.
Yep, starting this weekend. Russ's idea.
That's right. Hashtag vote for Russ. He's for us.
Yep.
You know, I'm for you guys.
Because I had a couple comments in the Patreon that said, oh, did Jess bribe him or tie him down or force him? No, you came to me with this idea.
Well, it's funny because if you want to keep me down, you really don't have to tie me down nowadays.
Oh, stop. I hate that.
Listen, I got to try to stand up for myself somehow.
Oh my God, these never end.
So, as you guys know, I don't know why I always say that. So I'm just going to do the Patreon shout outs. I need a new thing. I need a better shtick. So when you sign up for Patreon, I give you a shout out and we have a bunch of content there. And
you get to support the show.
Yeah, that's dope too.
Yeah.
And you get stuff. And you can get rid of commercials there too if you don't like commercials. But we're happy we have those sponsors. So this week's Patrons are Megan, Rachel, Alice, Erin, Isaac, Carmen, Elizabeth, Tracy, Granny Keenan, I think, Ellie, Keely, Michelle, Yasmin, Elshers, Al, Amanda, Nikki, Miss Jones, Amber, Lil MF Nasty. Come on, son. How you got me saying that? Alexis, Liz, and Pamela. So cheers to you guys. I don't have a beer, but I do have some ice in my cup. Oh, damn. It's not even making noise.
It's a whiskey.
A whiskey. So I'm going to take a sip for you guys. Cheers.
Cheers.
Appreciate you.
I have red wine, so I'm going to take a sip too.
Red wine Jess.
Red wine Jess is on fire. Speaking of Patreon, last week I gave them a poll, like I sometimes do. They get to pick the next few episodes. So they got 3 choices: serial killer, a conspiracy crime, and an unsolved case.
Let me guess what one, because I didn't look.
You didn't look?
Well, I didn't look at the final results I saw when you first posted it. I'm guessing a serial killer one.
Yep. So conspiracy crime and serial killer were neck and neck.
Oh.
But after a few days, when I called the poll, the serial killer case won. But it only won by 1%.
What do you mean by called the poll?
Like, I decided that's the end. Any other new entries
Oh,
are
when you
not
wrapped
valid
it up.
because I have to pick a case.
Oh, you're rigging elections over here.
No, I have to call it at a certain point because I have to pick.
I might have to storm the podcast.
Well, serial killer case won by 1%. And I don't always like to cover the big name serial killers because honestly, everyone covers these guys. We've discussed a few of them, like the main ones in the past.
See, other people cover serial killers, but when we cover it, it's like doing the remix.
Why?
Sometimes the remix of the song is better than the original song. But speaking of remixes, you can't, that's Diddy, and now Diddy's, you can't, so I don't know.
Well, true.
He was the remix king when I was a kid.
He was.
Now, he about to be in jail with R. Kelly.
He is. That's crazy. Well, we've discussed a few of the main ones, but I find the ones a lot of people haven't heard of to be a little bit more fascinating, if that's the right word.
How about intriguing?
Intriguing.
Like you're intrigued or curious or something. Like we're not glorifying it because these are just losers anyway.
True. 100%.
But sometimes it's just like, why did they do it? Or I love the people that got away. Like when people get away and then they get the serial killer.
Oh, like the survivors that get away.
Yeah, like they'll get a couple, but then one gets away and locks these losers up.
Yeah. I'm sure some people have heard of this guy, especially people in your second favorite state. What is your other favorite state besides New York?
Well, I'm currently in Baltimore, but if I had to guess, I'd probably like to go to Texas because I feel like you could do what you want there.
Uh-huh.
Like, and just, you could run around like Yosemite Sam and just shoot guns in the air while rabbits are chasing you or something.
Okay.
Like a wascally. Like you do whatever. I think you could do whatever there.
Yeah, I don't think so, but
I think so.
I figured Texas was your second favorite state besides New York.
Yeah, I think you could do whatever you want there.
You can definitely not do whatever you want there.
Besides hurt people. Well, I think in Texas, as long as you don't hurt people, I think you can do whatever you want. And people are probably polite because everyone got a pistol.
True. Well, the guy I'm going to tell you about was a level 11 piece of shit.
Can't go past 10, Jess.
He is incredibly terrifying and ruthless. His story is so insane that he caused actual laws to be changed in the state of Texas. These group of laws would be dubbed the McDuff laws, named after this scumbag, Kenneth McDuff.
Kenneth McDuff.
Huge shout out to Marcy. She's a new member of the Wife of Crime team, which is a big deal because for the last 4 years, it's only been me, Russ, and our graphic and merch designer, Jade. Marcy researched and helped me write today's episode because she actually came face to face in person with Kenneth McDuff.
Shut up.
While she was a criminal justice major doing an internship at the Travis County Jail in Texas. Her experience in that jail with Kenneth McDuff is what made her decide to not become a police officer. Kenneth McDuff is said to be the most notorious serial killer that the state of Texas has ever seen.
Damn.
His crimes began in the early 1960s and didn't end until the early 1990s. Everyone who had contact with him, even so-called friends, said that he was pure evil and scared the hell out of them. Because of McDuff, the state of Texas had to change the way they handled paroles and punishments. Are you ready?
Yep.
Kenneth McDuff was born in a small central Texas town named Rosebud, which sounds really cute.
Yeah, in my mind, it's like a nice tree-lined street with like some cherry blossoms or something.
Yeah, Rosebud sounds like a cute place. Rosebud is about 35 miles from Waco, Texas. He was born in 1946 and one of 4 children. His father ran a successful concrete business and his mom owned and ran a laundromat across the street. It is said that his mom was the boss of the house. McDuff was said to be a mama's boy. In fact, everyone in town said that his mom was fierce and they knew not to mess with Kenneth. People said that his mom treated him like a god. Even though a daughter was born after him, she always viewed him as the baby. Rumor has it that she once threatened his school bus driver with a gun for kicking him off the bus when he was fighting.
Damn. You know, I have some friends that are bus drivers in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And do you know if they get assaulted while they're driving the bus, they get 3 years off with pay?
That's crazy.
So you know what I told my friend?
What?
I will get on that bus and punch the shit out of you so you can get 3 years off with pay.
That's crazy.
Yo, I would schedule. I'd be like, listen, come on the bus and knock me out. And then I'd be off for 3 years.
Well, Kenneth McDuff's mom's nickname around town was Pistol Packing Mama.
Oh, this is a Texas woman for sure.
Everyone in the small town described their family as weird. Kenneth McDuff wasn't made to assume any responsibilities for his actions. He had no standards of how to act. He got away with literally anything and everything because in his mom's eyes, he could do no wrong. If any problems came up at school, the teachers, students, even administrators were to blame. It was never his fault. Every teacher in the school was afraid of his mother. Kenneth was described as a bully.
Piece of shit.
By the people he went to school with. He would purposefully pick on people he viewed as weaker than him. One day, when he was in the 9th grade, he was picking on a boy named Tommy Salmon. And Tommy was a popular kid. He wasn't like a nerd or anything. He was on the football team. And he kept begging him to fight him. Tommy kept turning him down, saying, no, I'm not going to fight you. I'm not going to fight you. But finally, after a while, he got tired of it. And he fought him. And he completely kicked his ass.
That's good. You know what? That time he wasn't picking on someone that couldn't fight back because, you know, if you're on the football team, you're at least physically fit.
Exactly.
Especially back then, like coaches could yell at you and call you names. I don't know how they coach now if they can't yell at children. You can't keep telling kids they're doing good when they suck.
I don't know. But Tommy beat him up, and this caused Kenneth McDuff to drop out of school.
Ah, bitch.
After he quit school, he began working for his dad's concrete business, doing manual labor. In 1964, When Kenneth was 18 years old, he bragged to his older brother, who was his best friend, that he had raped and murdered a woman. He told his older brother this.
I wonder if the older brother didn't believe it.
His older brother's advice was to sleep it off and forget about it. His brother was also a jerk and treated people like crap as well. During this time, there was a string of burglaries around Rosebud and the adjoining counties. Evidence pointed to McDuff, and he was charged and brought to trial. He was convicted on 12 counts of burglary and attempted burglary. Each count received a punishment of 4 years. However, the judge said the punishment would be served concurrently.
Yeah, so that means that it's just that's just 4 years.
Yeah.
So it's not 4 plus 4 plus 4.
Exactly. McDuff was paroled in 1965, and then he briefly went back to prison for fighting, and then he was finally released. Years later, when he was interviewed by a journalist, he said that the burglaries were just pranks, and they are no big deal. So that just shows that he
thinks he could do whatever he wants.
He literally thinks he could do whatever he wants, and it's totally his mother's fault. Once released, McDuff began working at his dad's concrete business again. On August 6th, 1966, McDuff
That's the devil's number.
Yeah.
If you believe in that type of stuff.
McDuff and 18-year-old Roy Dale Green decided to drive around in the new Dodge Charger that McDuff's mom had given him for getting out of prison.
That's like she gave it to him as a graduation present almost. That's crazy.
Oh, it's so crazy.
Well, I wish I would have got something as a graduation present. When I dropped out of high school, no one gave me nothing.
Well,
and then I got my GED. And you know what they gave me?
What?
Nothing.
Well, Roy and Kenneth McDuff had been introduced and kind of became somewhat friends about a month before this. Green said later that McDuff told him that night they were just going to go out and look for a girl. Around 10 p.m., McDuff found exactly what he was looking for. He spotted 3 people sitting inside of a car parked in a baseball field. There was one girl, but there was also 2 boys.
See, this is crazy. You know why to me? Because if you go out with another dude saying we're going to go look for girls, you probably end up going to a bar, you end up going somewhere. He's like circling the neighborhoods looking for people.
He's literally a predator.
Yeah, like he's hunting.
Exactly. The girl was 16 and her name was Edna Louise Sullivan. Robert Brand, her boyfriend, he was 17. And Robert's cousin, who was visiting from California, Mark Dunham, he was only 15. McDuff parked the car about 150 yards away from their car. He walked up to their car and showed them his .38 caliber revolver. And he ordered them out of the car and told them that they need to get into the trunk. They were scared to death, so they all got in the trunk of their own car.
Every time that happens, it seems like it never ends up well. I'm like, you're going to have to kill me here in front of everyone.
Well, these are kids.
Even if you're a grown-up, you're scared. I'm saying that now. Who knows? Maybe
you would just get in the trunk.
Just get in the trunk.
Yeah. When you have a gun pointed at you, it's very different from just sitting here talking about it.
I know.
So they were scared to death, and they did what he said. Kenneth McDuff got into their car and drove it along a highway and then into another field farther away. Roy Green followed in McDuff's car. Once in the field, he told Edna Louise to get out of the trunk and made her get into the car with Roy Green. The boys were told to stay in the trunk. He pointed a gun at them. They begged for their lives, and then he just shot them both in the head.
Wow.
He couldn't figure out how to close the trunk where the boys were, their bodies were, so he just decided to take the car and back it up to a fence, and then they left the scene. McDuff then instructed Roy Green to wipe off his fingerprints from the gun, and Green did just as he was told. Green was acting almost like his little bitch, like he was like his manservant, doing anything he said. And when you look at interviews, and documentaries about this case, Roy Green, he was kind of a simple guy. He was like a lower IQ.
You know what that reminds me of? Like in the Bronx, there's always a dude that people send to the store.
Oh.
But like he gets to keep the change.
Yeah.
At the same time, but they like there's a saying like women that, like, with certain boyfriends in the Bronx, like, you think he's all tough, but we used to send him to the store.
Oh, really? That's like a saying? That's like a thing?
Well, I saw a meme once. But there are the store guys.
Well, Roy Green seemed to be like a simple guy. You know, he didn't know Kenneth McDuff very well, and he pretty much just did anything that McDuff told him to do. So McDuff and Green drive to another location. They took poor Edna Louise out of the trunk and placed her in the back seat. After this, Kenneth McDuff raped her and assaulted her numerous times. McDuff told Roy Green to find something that they could strangle Edna Louise with. Green took off his belt and gave it to McDuff, but that wasn't good enough for him. He instead grabbed a broomstick, broke it, and then got on top of Louise, put it on her throat, and strangled her to death with it.
Ugh.
Kenneth McDuff and Roy Green then dumped her body in bushes and drove off. They stopped at a gas station and bought 2 Cokes for the drive back. They drove back to Roy Green's house and went to sleep. The next morning, McDuff buried his gun next to Green's garage and then drove to another acquaintance's house to wash his car. This guy's name was Richard Boyd. Reports of the dead boys being found in the trunk of their car were all over the radio. Green heard them and he started to really freak out because he was there. He went to Richard Boyd's house and confessed to Boyd and his parents. But the parents were like, no thanks, and told Green's mom instead. And Green's mom convinced him to turn himself in.
Wow. If he was so scared like this, why did he even participate?
Exactly. I know. It's almost like he was afraid to go against whatever Kenneth was telling him.
Yeah, but he still participated, so he's still a piece of shit. I don't care what you're afraid of.
Absolutely. Totally. During the trial, McDuff's mom told reporters that he had been on a date with a girl from church when the murders took place. Like, so she's already trying to develop an alibi for him. She said that he wasn't going to give up this girl's name because the girl was on the way to being a missionary with the church, and he didn't want to soil her reputation by being associated with the case.
Look at him trying to pretend to be a good person.
Well, it's all not true.
I know
this is his mom.
Well, you telling me that it's not true?
McDuff was found guilty and given the death penalty. During this time, the electric chair was the main mode of death in Texas. It was nicknamed Old Sparky.
Dang.
It sits in the prison museum in Huntsville, Texas today, where the death row inmates were housed. The following is the way the museum describes Old Sparky. The museum's prized possession is Old Sparky, an electric chair that fried 361 prisoners between 1924 and 1964.
Wow, I was wondering too. I was like, how many people were executed by this?
It was made by prison workers, rescued from a prison dump, and is now displayed in a replica death chamber. That's what it says about Old Sparky at the prison. I can't believe they said, like, at the prison, it says it fried 361 prisoners.
But it did.
That's crazy.
Well, you don't have to be so sensitive to these people that have committed like crazy crimes.
Totally agree. I mean, we've talked about the death penalty before. I think I'm very on the fence about it because some people do get the death penalty who are innocent.
Yeah, you know what? That's true. But for the ones that, you know, I would say the majority of the people that end up there are definitely guilty. And for those people, fry them. You can fry them like chicken. I don't care. Barbecue chicken. You can feed them to some animals. I don't care. For the people like him that committed these heinous crimes. How about that word?
A good word.
Hashtag Russ took the SATs. Not really.
Well, Kenneth McDuff's accomplice, Roy Green, was found guilty and sentenced to 31 years in prison. He was paroled in 1979, and these murders became known as the Broomstick Murders. You guys already know because we have been talking about them for a while now. VIIA Hemp is by far one of our favorite sponsors we've ever had, okay? We use their products all the time. Maybe you're a little like me. You're a little anxious You have a hard time settling down. You're kind of wound up a lot. If that's you, VIIA Hemp products are for you. Check out their website. You will find something that speaks to you. Maybe you're like Russ. You have a hard time sleeping because you have bad nerve pain or chronic pain. Then VIIA Hemp is for you because their gummies will help you get some quality sleep. Maybe you're looking to have a really good time. Maybe you just really like edibles. You want to laugh. You want to get the munchies. You want to watch a movie and have a really strong belly laugh. Then VIIA Hemp products are for you, okay? They're literally for everybody. So head over to VIIAHemp.com, promo code wifeofcrime1 to get 15% off your first order. That's VIIAHEMP.com. Wife of Crime #1 for 15% off your first order. Last year, Save More Money was the most popular New Year's resolution in America. Clearly, a lot of us feel like our money is slipping through our fingers. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm not the best saver, and I don't know much about investing until I started saving and investing with Acorns. Turns out you don't have to be an expert at all because Acorns will recommend a diversified portfolio that fits you and your money goals. And I always thought that when people say, ooh, I invest in stocks, that they had a ton of money or something. Well, you don't need to be rich. Acorns lets you invest with the spare money you've got right now. You can literally start with $5. And you know you guys are spending that at Starbucks on these fancy lattes. So skip the coffee and invest with Acorns. You don't even need a ton of time. Like you can just sign up and start investing within 5 minutes. Head over to acorns.com/wifeofcrime or download the Acorns app to start saving and investing for your future today. That's acorns.com/wifeofcrime. In prison, McDuff became the boss of his cell block. He had influence over the guards, and he could tell them who he wanted to be his cellmate and who he didn't. He chose a cellmate who would get him drugs and sex.
Dang, he was a booty bandit.
His cellmate offended the Aryan Brotherhood, but McDuff had so much pull and influence that no one dared to mess with him. In 1972, the Supreme Court overturned all death penalty sentences and outlawed the death penalty nationwide. They deemed it as cruel and unusual punishment and a violation of the Eighth Amendment. So, because of this, McDuff's death sentence was converted to life with the possibility of parole.
And how long was he in when they did this?
So at this point, he had only served 10 years of his sentence.
Wow, so he got hope while he was young. He doesn't deserve any hope.
Another thing working in Kenneth's favor is that Texas prisons were incredibly crowded at this time. In 1987, the governor of Texas decided that 750 inmates needed to be released each week.
Whoa.
To help with the issue of overcrowding.
If that's to depend on the crime, like nonviolent crimes, I would assume are the only ones that get let out.
It did not. They started with nonviolent crimes, and then it wasn't enough people, so they moved on to serious criminals.
Wow.
McDuff was paroled in 1989. Upon his release, the people of Rosebud were incredibly scared. They knew McDuff to be this violent bully, and they knew the murders he committed. Tommy Salmon, the popular athlete that beat him up, do you remember him?
Yep.
He was terrified that when Kenneth McDuff got out of prison, he would come after his teenage sons. The sheriff said it was a huge mistake and that girls were going to start being killed, and he just knew it. It is rumored that Kenneth McDuff said that he would kill one person for every day he spent in prison.
He gets me angry. I wish there's always someone bigger and badder than you, and I wish there was some bigger and badder person than him that could show him a lesson.
Well, remember in the beginning when Kenneth McDuff told his older brother that he had assaulted and killed a woman?
Mm-hmm.
That woman survived, but never turned him in because she was so afraid of him. When she was assaulted, she became pregnant and later gave birth to a daughter.
Wow.
When her daughter was 21, she found out who her father was, and she started visiting him while he was in prison.
I would have told her she ain't had no daddy.
When she would visit,
I would be like, I got pregnant like Mary of Magdalene. Like you were the virgin birth. You didn't have a daddy.
God is your daddy.
Yup. You were born in a stable with frankincense and myrrh delivered by the 3 wise men next to sheep.
When she would visit him in prison, he tried to convince her to smuggle drugs to him.
What a piece of shit.
But she never did. After he was paroled in 1989, he offered to take her to Las Vegas and become her pimp. This is his daughter that he's talking to. He became so disgusting to her that she moved out of state to be as far from him as possible.
Thank God. I was hoping like she didn't just keep going along with all his bullshit.
This is his own daughter. That just gives you an inkling of how much of a psychopath this man was. After his parole, he got a job at a gas station in Waco called the Quick Pick, making $4 an hour, which was above minimum wage at the time. Yeah, but
he's going to be doing some shady shit there, guarantee.
Well, he only worked there for 1 month. And he quit to sell drugs instead. So he started hanging out in bad parts of town with some shady people and paying prostitutes for sex.
Well, you know what they say.
What?
It ain't tricking if you got it.
His parole officer was completely aware of this lifestyle, but he didn't report him because he said that he was overworked. McDuff began taking classes at Texas State Technical College in Waco. He got an apartment in the Waco area, and everyone he encountered was still afraid of him. There are reports that he even beat up his classmates at Texas State Technical College.
As a grown-up.
He's
still trying to be like a high school bully.
Yeah, he reminds me of
Biff from
Back to the Future. Yeah. That's what I think of. Or like the O'Doyle family in not Happy Gilmore, Billy Madison. Like, O'Doyle rules.
I don't think I've watched Billy Madison.
Oh, well, it's just like generations of bullies. In July of 1990, McDuff returned to prison on a parole violation when he chased a black teenager with a knife and threatened to kill him. While in court, he screamed that he hated black people. Everyone knew he was a huge racist. But because of the prison being overcrowded, he only spent a few months in jail. On October 10th, 1991, McDuff picked up a sex worker named Brenda Thompson in Waco. He tied her up and drove around with her. He came upon a police checkpoint and stopped within 50 feet of the checkpoint. Brenda began kicking the window forcefully and screaming. McDuff was pissed. The cop started walking toward the car, and then Kenneth McDuff drove towards the cop, almost hit him, and then drove off.
I was going to be the end of him. They're going to get him now.
3 cops had to jump out of the way. The police chased him for a while, but he ended up getting away. He turned off the headlights and went the wrong way down a one-way street. He ended up parking in a wooded area. He assaulted her and murdered her.
Wow.
And buried her body. 5 days later, on October 15th, he was seen arguing outside of a Waco motel with a 21-year-old girl named Regina Moore. Regina was also a sex worker. He drove off with her to a remote location. She suffered the same fate that Brenda had, and her body wouldn't be found for years later. On December 29th, 1991, McDuff and a friend named Hank Worley drove to Austin to look for drugs. As they were driving around, Kenneth McDuff noticed a girl washing her car at a car wash. He parked his car and told Worley he'd be right back. Within minutes, he returned, holding Colleen Reed around the neck. She was so petite that he had just one arm wrapped around her, holding her up. Only her toes were touching the ground.
Wow.
People standing on their porches across the street from the car wash heard screams. They rushed over to the car wash but found Colleen's car, and that's it. They immediately called the police. They told the police that they had seen a tan Thunderbird driving the wrong way down the street. On March 1st, 1992, McDuff's car broke down about 150 yards from the quick pick that he used to work at. He thought he was in luck because he had previously noticed a girl named Melissa Northrup. He had told friends that a good-looking girl worked at the quick pick. Because he had worked there, he knew that there were no cameras around. Melissa was feeling scared, as she often did, because she worked the night shift by herself.
That's crazy, to have a girl work alone in a gas station late night.
She and her husband called each other many times during the shift to check in. Her husband called a few times, but Melissa didn't answer the phone. He became worried that something was wrong. He got into his car and drove to the store. Once he was there, he saw that her car was gone and she was nowhere to be found. He immediately called the police. They searched but found nothing. A few days later, her car was found. McDuff's car was located close to the store. McDuff became the prime suspect in Melissa's disappearance.
Basically, anything that happens around there, he needs to become a suspect.
Basically. Police agencies were getting frustrated, worried, and just plain pissed off because they knew that these crimes were him, but they had no way to link him to it, especially Melissa and Colleen.
Maybe they need to have a car tail him or something, but I know that's maybe just in the movies.
Well, what they decided to do was get an informant who told them that McDuff had sold him LSD and a gun in the past, which was illegal due to his parole stipulations. On March 6, 1992, the state attorney issued a warrant for McDuff's arrest. Investigators went to McDuff's parents' home to search for evidence of his whereabouts. His dad told them, "I don't know where he is, but if you find him, you can kill him if you want to." That's what his father said.
So his father hates him too. Maybe just his mom likes him?
Just his mom. Yeah, his mom is the only one that cares about him.
Wow.
In April, police visited Hank Worley many times at the shady motel that he lived in. This is the guy who had been with Kenneth McDuff in Austin when Colleen Reed went missing from the car wash. Worley had a daughter, and one of the investigators finally asked him how he'd feel if someone, or even McDuff, did to her what McDuff does to the women he finds. And that broke Worley. Worley admitted to being with McDuff in Austin when Colleen Reed had been taken from the car wash. He told investigators that McDuff had taken her from the car wash, they both assaulted her, and said at one point Colleen begged Worley just to kill her, just to get it over with. He stated that it was McDuff who killed her, not him. He was arrested and then held while they continued to search for Kenneth McDuff. On April 26th, Melissa Northrup's body was found by a fisherman. She was the one taken from the quick pick store who worked the night shift. On May 1st, McDuff was featured on America's Most Wanted.
Wow, I used to watch that.
And within a day, a coworker at a trash collection company in Kansas City, Missouri, called the Kansas City police and said they thought he worked with Kenneth McDuff. He had changed his name to Richard Fowler. The police searched Fowler's name in the database, and it showed that he had recently been arrested for soliciting sex workers. While in custody, he had been fingerprinted. They were able to compare Fowler's fingerprints with McDuff's, and it was a perfect match.
That's good. Lock these fuckers up.
It's one fucker. He was using an alias.
Oh, you told me two names.
Yes, it was one guy using an alias.
We'll lock him and his alias up.
How did you miss that?
If you know me, I stand by what I say. Lock them both up.
On May 4th, 1992, a surveillance team of 6 officers arrested Kenneth McDuff as he was driving to a landfill.
And the other guy.
One of the arresting officers was actually the son of the Falls County sheriff who had arrested McDuff back in 1966 for the murder of the 3 teens that he ended up on death row for.
Wow.
He was flown back to Waco. When he arrived, there was an angry mob awaiting his arrival. Officers said that they had to protect him from the mob.
At that point, you need to let it be street justice. Like, well, I tried to protect him, but the crowd overpowered me.
Exactly. Definitely. It was decided that he would be tried for Melissa Northrup's kidnapping and murder first. They had the strongest evidence and felt certain that they could get a conviction. But due to the community outrage, the fact that it was unlikely to get a jury who could listen to the evidence without already having their minds made up, the trial was moved to Houston.
Well, he'll be guilty no matter where he goes.
He would, yeah, 100%. The trial was a shit show for McDuff. The first witness the prosecution called was McDuff's mom. She was considered a hostile witness. He was not happy about it, and he told the media after court that day that he was worried about her well-being. McDuff would get angry anytime a witness testified, and he would yell at his attorneys for not doing enough. In the middle of the trial, one of the times he threw a pencil across the desk and screamed at his own defense attorney.
Well, we all know that's going to make him guilty, so keep acting up, you buffoon.
The judge allowed Hank Worley to testify. He was allowed to talk about Colleen Reed, the one who was kidnapped from the car wash. The prosecutor wanted to show the jury that Kenneth McDuff had a history of violence against women and that this is his MO. This was like his signature.
Mm-hmm.
McDuff insisted on taking the stand, even though his attorneys literally begged him not to and told him this is a stupid move. But he took the stand anyway. The judge allowed the prosecutors to talk about the murders of the 3 teens, which was his original conviction that sent him to death row in the first place.
Can't believe he was in death row and then got freed.
It's crazy, right?
I wonder if he's the only person that just ever got freed, like, without, like, an appeal or...
He's the only person in Texas history. I don't know if he's in United States history, but in the history of Texas, the only person who was on death row and got freed and then went back to prison.
They should have just shot him because, from what I know, Texas does not have a shortage on bullets.
The information about the 3 teens that got murdered wouldn't have been allowed at this trial if he had not taken the stand. So that's why his defense attorneys literally begged him not to, but he did it anyway.
Yeah, like former death row inmate who just happened to be free because we were overcrowded.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you would think he'd be the last person that would be freed because they deemed that the world would be safer without him.
Yeah, I know.
Or a better place, or...
It's crazy. It took the jury 4 hours to reach a guilty verdict and 1 hour to sentence him to death again. McDuff maintained his innocence. In 1994, Kenneth McDuff was tried in Travis County in Austin for the kidnapping and murder of Colleen Reed. And Travis County is where Marcy, our new member of our team, met him.
Oh.
And he scared the shit out of her. And that's when she decided to not become a police officer, even though she was in college for criminal justice. He again was found guilty and received the sentence of death.
Wow, he's definitely the only person that has received the death penalty twice. He got to be.
This is the 3rd time.
Wait, 3rd time?
Yeah, he got the death penalty for Melissa's murder.
So is this the charm?
And now the death penalty for Colleen's murder.
So is now this the charm? 3rd time's the charm?
There you go.
Fry them like chicken.
McDuff was still denying everything in 1998 when a reporter came to talk to him. He actually told the reporter, "I don't want to see anyone suffer or die." Eventually, a jail informant was able to get McDuff to talk and ended up telling him where he had buried the bodies of Regina Moore and Brenda Thompson. He refused to give up the whereabouts of Colleen Reed, however. He told the informant that if he told where she was, they wouldn't need him anymore, and therefore they would take away all of his commissary and prison privileges. Meanwhile, he was getting put to death in 2 weeks, but he wouldn't give up where he buried Colleen Reed to this informant.
Because it makes him feel like he's holding power.
Exactly. It's definitely a power move.
That's why we need to treat these people like Russia does. You see, the person that shot up Russia
They're cutting these dudes' ears off and everything. They showed up to court missing ears and everything.
Really?
Yup. My brother said they made him eat his own ear.
They made him eat his own ear?
Possibly. But I know they cut his ear off. And when there's a video of them talking to him like, you only have one ear left.
Wow.
There needs to be drastic punishments to
for
stop
people like this.
Yeah. Like, oh yeah, you don't want to tell us? Well, give me that ear. Or I'll cut your balls off and you can eat your own balls.
Oh, God. Well, he wouldn't give up the whereabouts of Colleen Reed because he was afraid they would take away his privileges to the commissary. So officials met with him and said that he would still get his commissary money. He just needed to tell them where Colleen was. Kenneth McDuff finally told them where he buried her. However, they couldn't find her. So they agreed to take him out of prison to the site where he said that she was buried so that he could show them.
But as long as you have him shackled and shit.
He was able to point to the exact spot where he had buried her, and her body was finally found. On November 17th, 1998, Kenneth McDuff was led to the death chamber and given a lethal injection. A sheriff who witnessed the execution said that he could see the veins in McDuff's neck pounding, and he knew he was scared. His last words were, "I'm ready to be released. Release me." So this just shows that up until the moment he died, he still viewed himself as like a victim. Like, I'm ready to be released. He literally tortured these women, murdered them in the most disgusting, despicable ways. I didn't go into super detail, but we can all use our imagination.
Yeah, you got to save me from that.
And then he gets to die through lethal injection, which he just pretty much falls asleep and never wakes up.
I think that with what he said at the end, he kind of viewed himself as superior. That he was better than everyone and they're beneath him. Mm-hmm. And that's why he continued to try to hold power at the end. Like, I'm not going to tell you, you got to take me over there. And
yeah.
So he continued to be an arrogant piece of shit.
Definitely.
# you've been profiled. Go to russtheprofiler.com to sign up for all your profile information and your new merch.
Okay. No one in McDuff's family claimed his body after the execution, so he was buried in the Captain Joe Bird Cemetery in Huntsville, Texas, where inmates whose bodies aren't claimed are buried. This cemetery is known as Peckerwood Hill. Because of McDuff, Texas tightened its parole laws, making it more difficult for violent criminals to be paroled. If they are paroled, they have increased monitoring. These laws are informally known as the McDuff laws.
He shouldn't even have a law named after him.
It is believed that he killed anywhere from 9 to 14 women after he was paroled in 1989. Unfortunately, for families of the murdered women, there hasn't been enough substantial evidence to link him to the killings. That's the story of the most notorious serial killer Texas has ever had.
I can't believe that went on so long.
Me neither. I can't believe it went on so long. I can't believe that he was put on death row, released back to death row, and then sentenced to death for a third time.
That was the thing, that he got released the first time off of death row without his conviction being overturned.
Yeah.
That's where I get a little
angry,
confused.
And all about this Texas overcrowding bullshit. Like,
maybe they were, but
there are so many nonviolent drug offenders that could have gotten out. I mean, they said they ran out of those guys.
Well, what I was thinking is, instead of locking up the new people that didn't commit violent crimes, keep the violent crime people in. And all right, you got caught with weed? Well, I guess you're just going to stay high.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So that was our case for this week. That's the serial killer case that the patrons wanted.
That was tough because I hate bully shit too, you know?
Yeah, he was a scumbag bully.
He died at the end, but I wish the dude in school beat him up, so at least he deserved that. And so that hurt his pride, and that's why he quit school.
You wanted him to get more ass whoopings through his lifetime.
Yeah, some wedgies and shit.
Yeah.
But it annoyed me that in jail he was kind of in charge too.
Yeah, he was. He was in charge in jail too.
Well, he's big too. That's what it is. People get intimidated by size. But what a lot of people don't realize is a lot of big people can't fight.
Yeah, they're a little like, they're not nimble.
Yeah, like you see all these bodybuilders?
Mm-hmm.
Bodybuilders. I'd fight a bodybuilder before I'd fight anyone. I'd fight a bodybuilder before I'd fight a guy that's like 6 foot in strength, like lengthy and skinny. I'd be like, oh, hell no, that dude's limber. These bodybuilders, like they look like they can't take $5 out their pocket.
Because they can't reach.
Yeah, they look like Tyrannosaurus Rex.
The little short arms. That's funny.
Yeah.
Their necks, they don't have necks.
But they work on not having necks.
It's true. They do.
So they look behind them by moving their feet, not turning their head.
Go for that look. That's funny. Yeah. So it's kind of crazy. He was a scumbag. But you know what I blame? It's funny. 2 episodes ago, we talked about this amazing mother who was like mom of the century. And now we're talking about a mother who loved her son, but treated him like a god. And he went the total opposite way. And it ended up, it was her fault that he had this inflated view of himself.
Well, she's probably no good either.
I mean, it could be nature.
She probably was
versus
a bully
nurture.
in her life and pistol packing mama, looking
She
like Throw
clearly
Mama
was.
from the Train. You ever seen the lady from Throw Mama from the Train?
Yeah, she's
That's
the
what I'm
same one
picturing.
from the Goonies, right?
Yeah.
That lady's scary.
Yeah, so I picture her as Throw Mama from the Train.
Yeah, I can see that. Just based on this story, I could definitely see her looking like Throw Mama from the Train or the Goonies lady. Scary.
Most people
lady.
here won't even know Throw Mama from the Train.
That's an old one. Yeah. All right, everybody. Well, check us out on Instagram at Wife of Crime Pod. And Patreon, don't forget, we're doing a 5-episode series, Russ's idea.
That's
Check
true.
us out on Patreon at Wife of Crime Pod and Facebook at Wife of Crime, the Crime Family.
And wifecrime.com for the dope-ass merch. And start hitting Jess up on Wife of Crime Pod on Instagram because I'm trying to get us back into YouTube. So you guys
Okay, but that's going to be a process.
It's not, guys. I got the camera and all the process is Jess has to do her makeup.
No, babe.
So everyone go on Instagram and say, Jess, do your makeup.
Okay.
Hashtag Jess, do your makeup.
One day we'll get back on YouTube.
I'm ready next week.
Okay. All right. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
See you on YouTube. Peace.